UHS, as we say, we have 27 remote acute care hospitals distributed across the country. We have facilities in the East region, the Central region, the West region. Correspondingly, we have a lot of Citrix servers that have been deployed for us by the Cerner RHO team. You can see on the slide we have 93 Citrix servers in West, 129 in Central, and 115 in East. So let me just take you through a day in the life of someone like myself working in healthcare IT. A number of challenges are presented pretty much daily. We have daily complaints from clinicians and healthcare IT or healthcare workers about log-on and session performance, and there's a bit of a blame culture for the application performance, blaming either Citrix or Cerner for the issues, and it may not always be Cerner or Citrix to blame, and we'll see that in one of the slides later on. We also have issues around providing consistent access to the patient critical information in the Cerner EHR system, and that's very challenging due to the very distributed nature of UHS facilities and the broad variety of users that we have on the system. We also have ongoing issues managing expectations and maintaining clinical and healthcare worker satisfaction with the end-to-end metrics that we generate, and there's always a lack of visibility in the background there, and something historically we had to work out over an extended period with Cerner to be able to get visibility into the Citrix system and to be able to leverage that for our end users at the different facilities. So the solution that we settled on was the Goliath Performance Monitor and Monitor IT application. So we felt that investing in the tools that moved us more from reacting to day-to-day business challenges or healthcare IT challenges to a more proactive support through collaboration with ourselves, Goliath and Cerner, to work out a way to really identify easily problems and get to root cause as quickly as possible. So we're nowadays able to more quickly pinpoint the root cause and troubleshoot any problems that come up in our Cerner environment, and it relies on multiple systems and vendors on top of the Goliath system that we have. We are also able to leverage historical and screenshot evidence to be able to collaborate with Cerner and other vendors around problems that we see, and share that information with our internal IT teams here at UHS. On this case one, we're talking about session slowness as it's reported at some of our facilities. So this particular case, half of our hospitals in the Las Vegas market in Nevada were reporting that the system was extremely slow. Clinicians were being kicked out of the system. If they disconnected and tried to reconnect, they wouldn't be able to reconnect. So that was 3 major hospitals in one market with literally thousands of users in that market, severely impacted. So whenever we have severe disruptions in our service like that, we go into a troubleshooting workflow process here. Probably fairly typical for most Cerner clients. We open a service request with the IRC, and we reported to them that we have 3 hospitals down, that we think it's some kind of connectivity issue. So we, as usual, let Cerner try to work that issue for the first half hour. If we don't get resolution within that first 30 minutes, we start up a bridge line between my team, our networking team, and the CernerWorks team. And we all start to use a variety of monitoring tools and applications to try and troubleshoot what's going on. On the Cerner side, they're looking at their Zabbix software on site, and they're looking at Remedy. They're looking at their alerting systems that are in place at IRC. Our UHS network team are looking at the RHO application to really do more detailed traffic analysis and trace routing. And on my side, we're looking at the Goliath Monitor IT product, and we're able to identify that there are connectivity issues there. There's also ICA latency going on at all three of those locations, but we're also aware that the other facilities in that market and all of the other facilities in the West region where those three reside are actually performing okay. So between these three teams, the collaboration that's going on there helps to pinpoint the root cause to a riverbed device at a network distribution center in the Las Vegas market. This is a site that's actually remote from those three facilities. And it turns out that that riverbed device had some updated settings made to it by the riverbed vendor, and that caused some routing issues for the three hospitals that actually route through that building. So once that root cause had been identified, we are able to share that with Cerner and bring to an end their ongoing investigation. Something certainly they appreciate, to be able to get off of their looking at their systems and get back to doing the other work that we so badly need them to do. And within the Goliath system, I keep on monitoring that to see that the change that was backed out by the riverbed technician actually resulted in reduced latency and improvement in the connectivity for the users. So once I see that everything returned back to our baseline normal screenshots and views that we see, we're able to let the SR be closed at the IRC. So that was something that was resolved in around an hour. That typically would have dragged on for many hours in the days before we had Monitor IT. And having RHO as well in that mix really helped as well. So these are the kind of views that we will see in Monitor IT when we have a performance issue going on in the system. We can easily see that we have ICA latency going on, showing session slowness there on that first upper left area of the slide. We also see in the next slide, that the next graph there's some ICA run time that's really spiking up around 18,000 milliseconds. And we also have network latency going on the top right, and end user connection speed is definitely way down at that time during that hour period of the problem that we saw. Yeah, and we also collaborate fairly tightly with Cerner as well, and actually give them links to these screens as well, so they can actually see it themselves. They're not worrying that you're giving them bad information, and you've got a live view, and they look at that top left, you're going to see. So it's definitely useful, and we actually share those same screens with our facilities as well. So it's a very distributed system for us. So the second troubleshooting use case we have is where we have hospitals down or suffering some kind of incomplete functionality, as Cerner like to call it. And in this case, it's fairly similar to the initial troubleshooting case we just covered, where we open the service request to the IRC, telling them we've got hospitals down. In this case, we also opened a support ticket with Goliath. There were some error messages that were presented to me at that time that I wasn't familiar with. We were still fairly new with Monitor IT at the time. So we engaged one of the senior guys there at Goliath, and he was able to pinpoint that we had IMA service errors going on that was causing some local caching instead of the caching happening at Citrix farm. And over on the right hand side there, on the other side of the line, These are the kind of error messages that we were seeing at the time, very plainly pointing out that we have SQL Server error code going on that was showing INA result DB Connect failures. So that was really indicating that we had an issue with the SQL Server that backends the Citrix farm that was causing incorrect caching to go on, and that really caused us a lot of problems on the Citrix side. So we were able to share that data with CernerWorks straight away. I mean, I think within 20 minutes we had shared that, and within 30 minutes we actually had it resolved. That kind of really detailed information makes speedy recovery definitely possible, and in cases where we don't have that, it usually causes extended downtimes with Cerner. Third case we have is around clinician dictation with dragging dictation. In our environment, we launch PowerChart and dragging dictation together from one icon from the storefront. And what we were seeing was clinicians, when they started to dictate, they would get very frequently get some crashing event happening, and they would have to start the dictation over. You know, anyone who's on the phone who deals with physicians, you know that's a bad scene to be in. The very demanding and very vocal population of users. So we dealt with the PowerChart team at Cerner, and they were pointing the finger at Nuance. We talked to Nuance, and they were pointing the finger at Cerner. We had different versions of both of those software that were in parallel development, and they basically weren't really lining up correctly. So once we started to see those crashing events in Monitor IT, we were able to show that it was speech on demand that was actually causing the crash and not PowerChart. This very obviously lets Cerner off the hook and puts the problem right in Nuance's court. At that point, those two were able to talk together and collaborate on getting a fix based on the different versions of the two software, and the situation really drastically resolved. We just very occasionally get some crashes nowadays. We've seen a few more since we went to 2018, but it's nowhere near as bad as we used to see. So an excellent recovery there as well.